Some people, we tell them, you know what, we'll pay you $5,000 up front and we're going to recoup that money as soon as you generate revenue. And I'll send you money.
You paid them to become customers.
We offer them. So as soon as we offer, you know what, if it's still not enough, I'll pay you $5,000.
Wow.
And after a couple of months, you will generate enough revenues. I'm going to recoup that money and pay you back.
Welcome to the Product Market Fit Show, brought to you by Mistral, a seed stage firm based in Canada. I'm Pablo. I'm a founder turned VC. My goal is to help early stage founders like you find product market fit. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, Pablo, it's a pleasure.
You're running a company now called Stake22. I remember when you raised kind of your seed round. I saw it late and I was like, oh, this idea sounds really compelling. And then I saw you grow, and I think you got to about like 2 million in top line, doing really well. And then COVID happened, and it was like, you know, you're in the travel industry. We'll get into exactly what you do, but kind of went from 2 million to near zero overnight. And now you've built it back up, not to 2 million a year, but to 2 million a month. So that's an incredible journey. So we'll dive into that. So maybe, Andrew, tell us a little bit, like, what is Stake22, and just a bit about kind of the origin story, like how you started it in the first place.
Of course. So it first started with my previous company. So I had a ticketing platform back in the days that I sold, and I was looking for a new challenge. My co-founder was coming from the travel world. He was trying to go through a B2C route, which I hate. I'm a B2B fan from art. And I told him there's a better way to do what you're doing right now to reach more people. Let's use ticketing platform events to reach out those users. And this is how Stake22 was formed. We were working with events like South by Southwest, CES, Startup Montreal, C2, to just empower their guests to find destination, accommodation, restaurants near their next event. And this is how the story started for us about 7 years ago.
And so what was your co-founder doing before? Like, what was his B2C idea?
It was also in travel, something similar to Trippin. So like kind of a meta search, but for short-term rentals, kind of like Airbnb merged with Vrbo, Abritel, and all of those short-term rentals.
What you shifted to was kind of like, if I understand correctly, it's like somebody's doing a big event and then on their own website, they embed like your platform so that people can find, you know, accommodations near the event easily. Exactly.
So this was one of our first idea. We came up with an API for them to embed on their website or ticketing platform, which was a big mistake. No one wanted to integrate API. It's too complex, take too much time, and the sales cycle was really low because of that. So when we came up with a new solution called a map-based solution, so now that was taking 5 minutes, they embed a live frame on their website, and they were able to just show where their events was taking place, all the live abilities with prices for destination nearby, from Airbnb, Vrbo, Hotel, Booking.com, Expedia, and so on.
What's the kind of rev share model? Like, how do they win? How do you win?
So it depends. So with that first customer base we started with, we were more of a painkiller for them. So that was kind of great. They didn't need any type of rev share. So they're just like, you know what? You're solving a problem for me. I can focus on my event. I don't have to worry about like finding accommodation for my guests. You keep everything and I'm happy with this.
Because what did they do before? What was a pain point for them?
It was such a bad experience. They need to reach out to hotels. They need to negotiate deals. After this, they need to fill the block. Because if they don't fill it, they're gonna be on the payroll for it. So like they have to pay for whatever room people don't fill out. It's just such a pain for them. They don't want to waste time on this. It's not adding value for the event, so they just decide to use solution like yourself.
Tell me a little bit more about kind of the starting of that. Like once you partner up with your co-founder, you decide to go B2B. Like, do you just start building right away? Do you raise money? Do you go talk to customers? And you've done it before, so you kind of weren't starting from square one either.
So my previous business was bootstrap. For this one, I'm like, you know what? I was like 28 at that time. I'm like, I want to go for the VC path. I want to go fast. I want to break things. Like, I want to see what it's like. So we decided to jump into the journey and jump into an incubator in Denver, Colorado. So me and him barely knew each other for a couple of weeks. We were like building stuff in a basement, and we decided to move to Denver, Colorado for 4 months.
Actually, maybe just before, how did you meet him then? Why did you start working with him?
Startup Fest. So Startup Fest in Montreal is a big event made for entrepreneurs, people that want to gather around, test ideas, shares. There was pitching contests as well. So that was a great place for just meet fellow minded entrepreneur.
Okay. So, and you met him and you liked the idea so much that you're like, yeah, let's do this together.
Yeah. My previous company was in ticketing. I'm like, I know what you're trying to do in B2C. It's never going to work out. Like, and he's like, don't worry about it. Build it and it will come. I'm like, this is the boldest idea ever. What we're going to do is we're going to create a good go-to-market strategy, find a way that have people to distribute their inventory, and it's going to be so much easy. And that is exactly what I did in my previous business. So I knew for a fact it was going to work.
What was the previous business?
Ticketing platform for students. So I was not the one selling those tickets. I was selling the platform for Student Union. They were the one doing the marketing, the promotion, handling the registration, payment, everything. And I was the one cashing in the money every time there was a transaction made. So
Like an
I
Eventbrite?
knew exactly to go to, yeah, like an Eventbrite.
So you knew that this new play, like that go to market, and so you just had to jump on.
I can pick up the phone, call my previous competitor and tell them, hey guys, I'm not into the ticketing anymore, but I got a great way for you to enhance your user experience, generate revenue out of it, and get more data. Are you in? And obviously the answer was much easier.
Who would have been your competitors back then?
Back then it was exactly the Eventbrite, the Point Vente in Quebec. There was so many companies outside in Canada as well in the United States that were doing students ticketing platform. So I could just reach out to all those like general admission and so on.
How do they fit into this, like the short-term rental space?
They all have the same problem, right? Like they have users that want to attend events, but if they live more than 100 miles away, they don't know for a fact if they're going to go. It's going to be complex. So we tell them after the transaction takes place or before, show them all of the accommodation nearby. Maybe they'll see that the accommodation is only $100 a pop instead of like whatever 500 they might be expecting. So that's going to be dropping down the cost of travel for them, and they're going to be more inclined to book a ticket.
I see. So there was two sets of customers, if I'm understanding. There's the events themselves, like South by Southwest, they put it on the website, but there's also Eventbrite or whoever else is managing the ticket sales. They want to sell tickets, and this is almost a way to lower friction. Yeah,
you got it right. We started with the event at first because we needed to get a go-to market and like see if it was working for them. And as soon as we saw it was working, we're like, cool, but one event a year is not going to work out. Like, because you had to wait another 365 days before the next edition. So let's go for the bigger one. Ticketing platform, we're having tens of thousands of events per week. They were the one doing most of the distribution for us at that point.
And was the pitch like, hey, you can make more money, or was the pitch just you can sell more tickets because this
sell
is
more
what
tickets,
people don't? Okay.
And then the user experience for them, get more data. Like was a pitch. Money for them it was not a big deal. It's a small amount of money. So for them, it was a little bit more about the experience of the user.
Okay. So back to the story. I mean, you moved to Denver for an incubator. First time founder, you do the accelerator, you do the incubator because you need the network. You kind of don't know what you're doing, whatever. Like in your case, you'd been through before. It was bootstrap, not venture back, but still, like, so what made you decide to even go to an incubator in the first place?
I knew nothing about travel. Nothing. I ate traveling. I didn't travel a lot because I was an entrepreneur. So like, as you know, we were living on ramen. It's not like you can go travel the world. And I decided that it was the best way for me to just step up my game and get into that world. So think about the demo day, think about the investor madness where they just like match people together. All of this was unknown for me. So that was a great way to just like get my step into it and make sure Stay22 was going to get good right off the ground.
What incubator was it?
It was called Travelport.
Oh, so it was specifically focused on travel. That was one of the reasons he did it. Okay.
Exactly. And then as soon as we finished out of this, we came back in Montreal, graduated from there, and we decided to apply for Founder Fuel. Lucky for us, we got accepted. So we got our first check as well.
Which is another kind of accelerator, but in Montreal, right?
Exactly. It was one of the largest one in Canada up to a couple of years ago. So now, once more, demo day, we're raising our first seed round, about $750,000. And we just decided to launch the companies out there and just scale it from there, from a small team of 2 people to 8.
What did you have? So you're raising $750K. What stage was kind of the product or even revenue at back then?
Back then, we had a perfect product market fit with the event industry. So we were reaching out events back to back to back. We were scaling as crazy. So like a matter of 12 weeks of program, we had 7 partners. And by the end, we almost had 100 events working with us.
Wow.
So investors were super happy. They wanted to turn the check. As soon as we got the money in, this is where we told them, by the way, guys, we're not going to work with events anymore. It's like not enough. We're going to work with ticketing platform. Well, whatever. We trust you guys. So do whatever you think is going to be the best. And we just decided to switch the company to work with ticketing because of the scale of it. Though it's a longer sales process, it's not exactly the same product. So we had to redo the full process. And this is kind of where we figured out that we were not a painkiller anymore. We started to be a vitamin. Because as I mentioned, it was not that much revenue for them. Yes, it was enhancing the user, but like it was not that making of a pain point. So they were like more reluctant to the integration. It was taking more time. But it still was growing pretty fast. So we were doing about 4x over a year for the first couple of years, which was great back in the days.
Maybe just what numbers did you have? Like, do you remember, was it like maybe 100K or so in revenue when you raised your seed round?
Yeah, when we raised, we were doing about $250,000, I believe. And after this, in total sales. And after this, we did $1 million. So
a year,
give or take about 1 quarter. Yeah.
This is a year. Okay, cool. And tell me a little bit more about that. Like, this painkiller versus vitamin. I mean, it's a classic kind of dichotomy. What was it that in one case, like I kind of get it, but I mean, if you could just expand on that, like what is it that makes something a painkiller must have, which is what everybody's looking for. Every founder wants to be selling a must have versus a vitamin, which still has like ROI, like it still delivers value, but it just doesn't have the pull that you need it to have because it's kind of like, yeah, sure, call me tomorrow, right? Like not top priority.
Yeah, ring me back, and we always make the joke about call me back in Q5. Like it's never happening. You're just at the bottom of the roadmap, and during the rise index are like, sure, the risk is low, but the impact is like low as well. So we'll see later. To add on top, Pablo, like when we got into the incubator for us, we came to the conclusion that we're a B2B2C company. And we still need to have a great product for the end user because otherwise no one will be interested. And they forced us actually to do interviews. So we had to go into Starbucks and like McDonald's to hit up random strangers on the street and say, hey, by the way, you have 5 minutes. I just want to ask a couple of questions.
Oh, no way.
And that was so strange at first, like bothering someone when they were in queue for a coffee, pitching them your startup and saying, like, if you have a solution to help you find your next accommodation for the event, will you use it? What it should look like, tell me more about the pain it will solve, how much it will cost, like running the full thing. But getting there was exactly where we needed because this is where we saw that we were adding value. They were like, holy damn, if there was such a thing, I would love to be able. And after this, we came to the conclusion that it was harder for us to reach them by B2C. And this is why we needed to get that strategy in there. So like that B2B2C. And this was one of our first learning we did in terms of product market fit.
Was that useful? I mean, that sounds so like obviously talking to customers is critical, right? But in a B2B context, it's a little bit more meaningful because you can target the right ICP and actually be like, hey, how much would you pay for this? Like very pointed questions. In your case, you're going up to strangers. You don't know, like, do they even go to events? Do they not go to events? Like, are they just telling you what you want to hear? Like, how do you manage to kind of get some value out of that?
I think most of the time they're just going to spitball and give you 90% of shit that you won't be using. Let's be honest about it. But the mindset of talking with like 12, 20, 50 people in the end start to like develop something. You understand like, oh, there's something in there that maybe people are telling, maybe people are not telling about. And for us, it was always about if you had to find accommodation for your next South by Southwest and so on, like, where do you start research? Do you go on Google? Do you find... And for us, we always came to the conclusion that they're always going to end on their direct brand, Booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia, wherever they have more loyalty point. So for us to create such a strong brand that we will be able to attract customers to us, where they will search for the event, was almost impossible. Or like, if we want to keep in that field, either we're going to do Reddit, promoted posts, we'll have to like find a good B2C act together or spend millions of dollars on advertising, or we go and find a different strategy to get to those users. So I guess this was one of our first learnings.
Since that really validated that you needed distribution, like you needed to be at the right place at the right time. And that meant these partnerships. Kind of realized, okay, events are great because you solve a clear pain point, which was for them was, if you just think about the priorities, like you're running a conference, you have so many things to do, and you have this nuisance, which is people need to travel here and they need to stay somewhere. And if I don't solve the problem, they won't come to the event. But if I do solve the problem, it's time. It's like, it's not just time, it's money. It's like all these sort of risks that you just get no value out of. So, okay, I get that. Problem is it's once a year. Now you go to ticketing and you're like, hey, like this should probably help you sell more tickets. And they're like, yeah, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't really know. I've got other things. What do you do?
Exactly. So first off the bat, we didn't add back in the days, like with notoriety. We're working with the biggest brand, with the biggest event. We're also using the event to give us warm introduction to those ticketing platforms. So if I was working with South by Southwest, I'm like, by the way, your ticketing provider right now is not using you. That would be a great way to help enhance the user experience and drive more bookings. It's like, cool, let me introduce you. And once you get those like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 introduction by their own customer, now they're like, okay, everyone's bothering me about it, might as well integrate it. So we kind of use a bottom-up acquisition channel to just say, you know what, once we have enough outreach by those customers, they're going to be open to hear about your product and strategy there.
That's surprising. It's surprising because it wasn't the product that you changed. It wasn't even maybe the messaging. It was actually literally the go-to-market, the distribution, how you get into the door. And is that because once they gave you the time, they realized that there actually was a lot more value than they might have otherwise perceived? Or maybe when they launched the product, is that when they really saw, holy shit, this actually moves the needle for us?
Some people told us they got pitched that idea a couple of times, okay? So they're like, I've worked with companies similar to yours, it went down. Like, I've lost everything, it's not worth the time to integrate and so on. We had to, one of our first partners, Night Out, we had to send over a letter of our board to say, by the way, we're a legit company, we're not going down, here's the financial.
Wow.
Some people, we had told them, you know what, we'll pay you $5,000 up front and we're going to recoup that money as soon as you generate revenue. And I'll send you money.
Paid them to become customers.
We offer them. So as soon as we offer, you know what, if it's still not enough, I'll pay you $5,000.
Wow.
And after a couple of months, you will generate enough revenues. I'm going to recoup that money and pay you back. And that actually made the switch. One of our first sales with Night Owl was exactly this, like, okay, you guys seem legit enough. You guys are ready to put your balls on the table. I'll fucking do it. Sorry about it, my French. But I'll do it, and we're going to see what it works out. And in the end, it worked out really good. And after this, obviously, it's much easier to sign a second partners and a third one because you're already embedded. You already test out what are the pain points during the process, so you get better.
You know, I hadn't heard of that. It makes sense. I mean, it just shows how much you believe in it. What was the outcome like when they put this in? What kind of ROI did they see? Do you remember? Was it like they actually sold quantitative board tickets, or maybe what did you do to be able to measure that ROI? Because that's what then helps you sell to other customers.
Yeah. So for us, it was all about conversion rate. What was your previous conversion rate before? What is a new conversion rate? Are we helping you out sell more tickets, or actually are you losing on tickets? Some of them were really stressed out. They're like, you're going to purchase 2 tickets for Justin Bieber back in the days. That's $500. Then you will have to add another $400 for a night at the hotel. Maybe the cart value will be too high and people are going to drop off. And if it's not the case, they're going to just remove it from there. Good thing for us, actually the opposite happened. So people were actually booking more tickets with this because they were able to do just a full package. They're like, okay, cool. I booked my tickets. The next thing I need to do after purchasing my experiences is book my accommodation. In our pitch deck, one of the things that we said to investor was the way that travel changed over time. Back in the days, your parents probably just booked their flight or their bus or they took the car. And after this, once they were at destination, they were finding, okay, what are we going to do now? I dare you to find someone today that's going to book their flight tickets and don't have the tickets for the Super Bowl to go see the NBA, the NASCAR, whatever experiences you want. This is now the first step. So we managed to find ourselves right after the transaction takes place. Once your dopamine level gets high, you're super excited, you got your credit card dance, you just get your tickets, you're like, let's do this, I'm ready to spend money right now to get. And that's the reason why our conversion rate went higher because of it.
And maybe just to drill down on that, where did you, like, just to be sure, if I'm buying tickets to Justin Bieber, I make that transaction and then you come up, or I click the tickets, but before I've actually put my credit card in and bought, you kind of come up and say, hey, do you want to add the hotel experience
both.
Or whatever? Okay.
So we do both. We do pre-transaction and post-transaction. So that's why we have an impact on both sides.
In the early days, like back then, you also supported both?
Early days, I think we were only doing after the transaction take place. And after this, we started to do before, which was a big challenge because they were afraid. But once they saw the conversion rate go up, it was much easier to sell after this.
And when you did after, what was the value prop? Because at that point, you're not impacting the conversion rate, right?
For after, it's mostly for revenue generation. So like, percent of book, I'll be able to get more data. Maybe I can call back after this to Marriott and say, you know what? Last year, we sent over 10,000 people to book in that specific area. You guys want to do a special deal, a promotion on those things. So data was really valuable for them.
Okay, cool. And so when do you, so you land kind of this first customer, you prove it out. How do you land the next kind of 2 to 5? Did you build out kind of like specific case studies, showcase how much you moved the needle on conversion, or was it just like all kind of 0 to 1, they all happen at the same time?
They all happen at the same time. We did use some introduction by them. So if one customer was super satisfied with which night out, he agreed actually to give a strong recommendation to others. So like, are you guys good if I put you in touch? He'll be able to tell you about the pain point when we're solving the issues we had together. And it was actually your ambassador. So he was selling a product for us to competitor of his, which was really great for him. Not everyone agreed to do something like that.
Why would they do so? They just liked you a lot?
No clue. Maybe because of the French-Canadian vibe and we're just like being friendly. But the thing entrepreneur, one thing we figured out, like this younger the company are, the more the CEO is an entrepreneur that founded the company in the first place, the stronger the relationship is. Versus big platform back in the days, think about the Vivendi of this world, Ticketmaster and so on. Obviously, it's not the founder that's the top of the company. We cannot reach to them. They're not as open, but founders want to help founders. And that's always been super helpful for us.
And so when do you start feeling like in that kind of V1, because we're still talking pre-COVID days, when do you start feeling like, okay, you know what, we got it. Like we're really, this is really working. Like this is vibing, revenue's going up, things feel easier and easier versus harder and harder?
Yeah, probably around 2019, we got a team of about 24 people. Back then, we got that hockey stick growth going well, 4x year over year once more. So like, we're killing it. We feel like nothing can stop us now. We're raising our next round of financing. We closed the paperwork in February 2020.
No way.
Bam.
Wow.
Yeah. Pandemic hit.
How much did you raise? What was that round?
So it was about $2.5 million at that point. Unfortunately for us, or fortunately knowing what the story is now, some investors didn't send their money. So they said, you know what? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how long that pandemic is going to last. Like, we're not going to send the cash. But I'm like, we got a paperwork signed, right? You need to do something about it. And he's like, you can sue us if you want to. You will probably run out of money before anything happens.
Wow. They had signed, and just to be clear, because this is really important, like they'd signed, what was it? Was it a safe that they were doing, or was it like a price round?
Price round. It was a price round with amount. They had 60 days.
And they had signed purchase agreements, all this sort of thing.
Everything was signed out in February. So they had 90 days to send the money.
Wow.
The first investors sent their money within 30 days. So pre-pandemic, everything was good. Once the pandemic hit, we had another investor that sent their money. But a couple of investors in the end were like, seems too risky for us. We're going to wait and dodge.
Goodness.
And for myself, like, even if I didn't want to get those people on my board, because I'm like, you know what? If you don't believe we'll be able to get through this, like, screw you. We'll make it without. But because my other investor could have just decided to pick a fight with me and say, you know what? You didn't follow your CEO role and decided to go for the money. I actually had to start a legal system against them. So we had to openly sue them and say, you know what? You need to send their money and so on. They never sent their cash. We just opened up the legal case and decided to move on after this.
Goodness.
But you know what? A couple of years later, we decided to ring on the door and say, hey, where are we supposed to send the money again? I'm like, yeah, sure, forget about that.
Did they really come back?
Yeah, they got some balls, huh?
Gutless. Wow.
It is a crazy world. And every single entrepreneur of mine told me the same story. Don't celebrate till the money at the bank. But I tell you, we did pop some bottles like as soon as the paperwork signed in February. And I was like, oh, wow, that's going to be so hard to tell the team. We had to cut people off because the money never came in. So we had to make some massive decision during the pandemic because of it. It's
a once in a lifetime thing, but it is reflective of something bigger, which is like, you're never like safe. You know what I mean? Like, this is just the life that founders choose. Is just like the highs to highs, the lowest to lows. And you're just one thing away from something huge happening and one thing away from something terrible happening.
But even with the money, Pablo, I could have gotten like the $2.5 million and say, you know what, let's keep going. And my investor on board could have just come back and said, you know what, we don't think you got what it takes. Forget about it. Send the money back to the shareholder. And it could have been a legit decision, right? Like, they want to protect themselves. It could have been the right thing. Though we were really lucky with our other investor that did send their money. They were like, you know what, just like, don't burn too much. We don't know how long it's going to last. But like, we trust you, do whatever it takes to get stronger out of this. They had a strong mentality that in every crisis there's an opportunity. And they believe that me and Ahmed were able to figure out whatever opportunity we were able to size for the company. And that's kind of what happened.
So now let's get real though. Like, when that happens, so you have maybe, you know, a significant portion of your round that doesn't come through. And I think much more importantly, your revenues just crater because who's doing events, you know, in March 2020, April 2020. We'll get into like what you did because you solved the problem, but like, what are you feeling and what kind of conversations are you having with your co-founder at that point? Was there despair or did you never even kind of get there?
It was mostly a roller coaster. And most people think that either you get like down right away or later. What happened for me, so the revenue went down from $130,000 US a month to like 10,000. It's not enough. We don't know how long we're going to last. Like, we have to make massive cut for the business. But I think during the first week and a half, we're hosting daily meetings with the team. Like, we're going to get through this. Don't worry about it. We have plans. We'll find a new solution. We're running brainstorm with the team, workshop with other entrepreneurs. We're doing kind of like working session about like, where can we use our product in different industry? Now we can do all of that crap. And after 2 weeks, I think this is where it really hit us. I'm like, okay, it's not going to come back anytime soon. Event industry is like completely dead. All of our customers have no more money, so we will not be able to sell them anything else. And there's no way that pandemic is going to last for 6 months. The way it started is like, it might last for, I don't know. And people were like, oh, 6 months max and 12.
Oh yeah, people were like 6 weeks. Yeah, then 6 months,
exactly.
2 years. It changed all the time.
After 2 weeks, we were seeing what's happening in China. And China was the first one in. So we're like, okay, everything is still shut down now. Like, the odds of this getting a backup is going to be good. And this is probably where I hit the rock bottom. I was like, super tired. I was depressing. I was like drinking during the day. I was not feeling well at all. And I wanted to just like get out. I'm like, am I going to lose my time trying to survive with that business where we don't even know for how long? I think my time is more valuable than this. But at the same time, we had a great team of people. So we look at different opportunities. I was so depressed that we call a couple of competitors of ours in different industry and like, are you guys interested in doing acqui-hire? Like, we don't care for anything for us. Just make sure that your employees' ESOP will be transferred. We look at everything because we're like, we might not be the right people to lead the ship.
Did you think about maybe just giving the money back too? Was that an option or no, because it would have affected your employees?
We never really thought about giving the money back, to be honest. It was because it was such a small amount for the big investor we had around the table. Like, for them, it was not going to make any change versus like, oh, if there's a way actually you can use that cash to get bigger and find opportunities, that's going to be such an upside for you.
And so you're going through these conversations and just none of them materialized? Or like, did you decide, actually, we don't want to do this? Or just literally like, it just nobody would buy you guys, so you got forced to push?
I know we actually went through a couple of conversations with this. Most of the time it was coming back to, can my employees get whatever good salary, which was not good salary back in the day. So that was a check mark all the time because every company out there can pay better than we could. But the stocks, so they were not able to transfer the stocks. And we wanted for employees, my colleague, to get something out of the journey. So they might have been with us up to 3 years at that point. We're like, let's make sure they haven't get paid $20,000 for nothing during that time. They must have something in return. And we were not able to use to exert this because obviously we had no leverage. Like, we were burning the money every day. Every month we were going down. Like, we knew for a fact we had a gold post that was going to kill us in a couple of months. So it was super hard.
What did runway drop to at that point?
Without the government, we had about 6 months of runway.
Wow.
So we were going down pretty fast. Good thing that we just raised before, so it was good. And with the government stepping in and paying like 75% of the salaries and the rent, we were able to extend it up to about 18 months, which was exactly what we needed.
When do you start to shift, right, from, oh my God, like on fire, let's just try and get out, as quickly as possible, as long as it meets certain conditions, to let's find an opportunity? The
opportunity was always there. I was probably not the one leading it all the time. But about 2 months and a half later, after running all of those like scenarios and brainstorm, nothing is really working out. Nothing is picking up. We don't feel so good about ourselves. So we're kind of like looking at the different scenarios.
Just so I know, how many people are you at this point?
We're 42 as of today.
And no, I mean like in the story at that point.
Sorry, we're probably around a dozen people back then. So 8 to 12 people.
Dozen people brainstorming. No one's doing any like work. They're thinking, but there's no production because there's none to work against. And
exactly.
Okay, 2 months of that. All right.
And you don't know what to do with your day, right?
Exactly.
Like what are you supposed to do? You don't reach out to customer. You don't spend time. So like people just at home doing whatever they can. And obviously they all have their family as well. They all have their own problem. You're not able to go grocery shopping. You're not able to go out. Your mental issue is not as good. So everyone's having the same type of challenge. And we're just trying to do those like daily and weekly call about like, hey guys, here's what's happening in the market. Here's the data we're looking into. We think it's going to go back in X amount of time, but we barely know what's going on. So we're trying to make our best to keep the positive attitude, even though we know like it might never come back and we'll just have to deal and shut it down.
No one did. I mean, that's the crazy thing about then is nobody did. There was nowhere to point to that you could say they know. Like it just was complete.
It was bad. And like a year exactly after this, so March 2021, we lost our biggest supplier, which was Airbnb. So Airbnb decided to drop completely their affiliation platform. They wanted to go public. So go with the S1, show that 95% of people go direct to Airbnb. So they shut down everyone. And Airbnb was representing about 72% of our revenues back then. So like that was another big drop. So we're starting to slowly get back. Wow. Now you got to find another way in.
And you're getting back just through that time. Like you're getting back on still the same model, selling to ticketing platforms, or did you start making a shift at that point?
At that time, what we noticed is like nothing's happening with the event industry. Let's move out of this. We came back to the conclusion of like, where do people travel right now? Well, they're not able to go outside of the country. So what are they going to do? Go back and explore their cities, which was the main thing people did. I don't know if you did like look at the nicest beaches 90 minutes away from where you live and go back and see whatever like museum and like outdoor activities.
Cottages. Like, that's what we started doing. Yeah. 100%.
Exactly. Cottage. Like, and you go hiking over there. There's a nice trailing, like all those massive outdooring company just like lift up during the pandemic. And this is how we decided to switch. We're like, okay, good. Now we have an idea. How do we get to those people? Because I'm always the go-to market. Like, how do we find a distribution to get them? And the one talking about this were either content creator, bloggers, or media company. Both of them were the one driving that type of travel. So we decided to talk with those people and say, okay, it's a bit different than what we're doing with ticketing platform. The map-based solution doesn't work as good for you guys, but we can find a way to get in.
Just to get more clarity on that, this is somebody that writes like top 10 beaches in Ontario, like this kind of thing?
Exactly, you got it. And those are moms and pop shop. Like, this is going to be Caroline, 45 years old, that live in Missouri, that's going to talk about, here's a nice thing to do, like, around the city. If you got kids, the 10 nicest activities around, like, this is exactly your type of crowd that we're dealing with.
Okay. And the media companies would be what?
In Montreal, it would be kind of North City. So they're the one talking about mostly for Gen Z. Okay. So Gen Z calling the nice shot, what's happening with the vibe, what's up in the trend right now.
So let's say it's like a BuzzFeed, but local BuzzFeeds, things like that are writing these kind of lists. Right. Okay.
Yeah, so local BuzzFeed. Reach out to those people, try to understand what the pain point is. At that point, me and my co-founder decided to get back on the steering wheel because we had some people working with us, but like, it's not fast enough. We want to be like at the leading edge of this. People don't trust, let's be honest, us anymore because we've been like hyping the situation for like a year and a half at that point. Like, hey, don't worry, guys. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. Nobody believe us probably at this point.
Crazy.
Like, okay, let's get back to this. During the day, I was running interview with bloggers. So I was running like 5 to 10 people doing workshop, calling them out, seeing what their pain point was, just trying to understand. My co-founder at night was coding like the product that we're describing for like a full week. And the next day I was having another conversation with different bloggers and like, oh, where's what we work on? There's a demo. Like, this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. But it's kind of cool. So let's like explore this a bit further. And we did this for about 10 days.
Just to make sure the timeline right. February 2020, that's the round. March, April, you start trying to see if you can exit of 2020. This is a year later?
Yeah, a year later.
It's like March 2021. After Airbnb shuts you down.
Almost at the same time as Airbnb shut us down. Like maybe 2 months before Airbnb shut us down.
You kind of crossed your fingers and hoped for about a year. Like basically trying to say, okay, this is going to come back, it's going to come back, it's going to come back.
Being as frugal as possible, like renegotiating all of our deals, negotiating the rent, negotiating all of our contract, not paying our provider, dealing everything we could, just to keep as much money as we could to delay whatever amount of time we needed to get there. It was about to come back.
That's when you realize, like, okay, what's the new kind of normal? Like, what are people actually doing? And then you started going down this blogger media.
Exactly.
route. Okay.
Because nothing was really happening during the first 6 months, right? You were stuck at home. You were not able to go outside. You couldn't even hike. Like, you're going to not have to take your car past 8 p.m. in Montreal. So everything was shut down. But after about 6 months, people started to go a bit more. And this is how we managed to get into the outdoor industry.
And so what did you find out from these conversations with bloggers? Like, what were some of the kind of main pain points around, what you were maybe offering?
So a couple of stuff, most of them use hyperlink. And one of the biggest pain point they had is they had to manually change those links by themselves. So whenever there was a full forever, one of the Airbnb or Vrbo was not available anymore, they had to go change manually all of those links. And sometimes they had 100, if it was not thousands of links. So like, okay, we're going to use the Stay22 one. We'll be able to change those 404. It's going to work great. And they said, okay, cool. That's about 20 hours of work. I will do this in Q5. I'm like, nah, that's not gonna work out. We're gonna pay me content culture, give us access to your platform, we'll make it for you. Like, screw you, there's no way I'll give you access to my bread and butter.
These were affiliate links, like they would write 10 beaches in Ontario, here's where you should stay, here's a link to an Airbnb, to a hotel, whatever, and they'd make some.
Yeah, you got it, okay. Or nicest treehouse and so on, and we're just making money out of this.
Got it, okay.
They were having most of that problem. And after about a week of work, my co-founder is like, cool, we're asking for all of those stuff, but this is not what they actually need. I'm like, cool, thank you so much, like Ford, like just like they're asking for ours and the fastest source and you came with a car. I'm like, what are you thinking? He's like, we're going to create a script that's going to replace all of their link for himself. Like, okay, keep going. He's like, they're going to embed this on the webpage and we will take control of everything on the webpage. I'm like, I'm not sure you're going to trust us, but keep going. And we will replace all of their link for themselves. So they don't have no work to do. They don't have to worry anything at all. It will take 5 minutes of integration. And we'll be able to generate more revenues for them. And they'll have all of their script in one single page. Like in one dashboard, they'll be able to have all of their provider in one place. And this is exactly what we pitched to the market the following morning. Most of them hated the idea. They're like, we're still not giving you access to a platform. But some of them say, oh, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I'll give you access. Show me how it works. And those first two customers were the one that we used for the beta. And after about 2 weeks of working with them, they fall in love with the situation. They just love how easy it was. And from there, we were able to just expand and get more notoriety because they were the one that we built the case studies on. We're able to use their word of mouth, use them as reference. And from there, this is how we managed to get our second hockey stick growth coming out of the pandemic.
Tell me a bit more about how that works. So now you would write a blog and 10 beaches in Ontario, you would plug your solution in and you would find the stays for them, or they would still tell you which ones and you would switch the links?
So we do a bit of both. So right now, if they're writing, if there's a previous blog about 10 beaches in Ontario, we're going to just look at all of their previous links, see which one is broken, which one redirect where, and we're going to take over those links for themselves and show to wherever best provider we think will convert or bring more revenues. And if they don't have any type of content already, they don't want to waste their time to look at the nicest one, we take care of it. So we have a hyperlink solution right now with the GPT and Gemini. We'll be able to read the information from the page and just add hyperlink on top of it for whatever we found. So they have actually nothing to do else. They can finally focus on their work, which is writing down about where they like to travel, and we take care of the monetization for themselves.
That makes a lot of sense. And by the way, what happened with Airbnb? Like, were you not able to link out to Airbnb in these blogs?
We can still link out. We're just not able to monetize it as much. So It's impossible for us to provide value as much for a provider.
Does that mean you try and favor others like VRBO and Booking and stuff, like, and for the blogger as well?
Exactly. So whoever is going to pay more to a certain extent will be able to get more traffic because of this. It's just a lot of supply and demand.
You finally get this out with a few beta customers. We're, mid 2021. When do you feel like, this really starts working? And again, this starts taking its own kind of momentum?
Probably not so long, probably about 3 months. At first, most of the people in the company were making fun of it. They called it monopoly money because we used to get paid so much faster in the event industry. People were booking 30 days in advance. They were booking their travel at the same time. So it was super fast. Now with the travel community, people are booking months in ahead, like 90, 120 days. We're getting paid 60 days after this. So it takes so much more time. So like maybe we'll see that money at one point, but maybe we'll never see it as well. Plus cancellation rate is higher. It was a total different industry for us. The team was like, maybe it's going to work, but probably just a waste of time. Let's keep working back on the event that was slowly starting to pick back up. And in the end, we decided to stay on it, focus on exactly what we were good at. When we were talking with customer, it was solving a real pain for them. We had no churn. In a couple of months, we managed to get from 5 partners to 10 partners to 50 partners to 100 of partners. And to this day, we almost have about 2,000 partners using those products. So it's really like a hockey stick of growth.
How quickly did you grow, let's say, from like 0 to $1 million? Like, do you remember what that path was like?
Good question. So we moved back from, let's say 2020 was 0 back in the days. After this, we managed to do $5 million. So we lost money in 2021 again. In 2022, we did manage to drive about $5 million in sales.
Wow.
2023, 15. So about 3x. And 2024, we're hoping to do about another 2x out of that. So almost $30 million.
Oh, that's incredible. And did you move back? Like, what about the events? Because I'm thinking, the Justin Bieber concerts, I mean, they're whatever, like, Taylor Swift, like they're all back now. So are you serving that market again too?
Still serving the market. They represent about 15% of revenues to these days. So just to give you a good understanding, like if we had kept in our previous market, we will do about 15% of revenues we're doing today. It's still growing, just a matter of like tiny fraction versus the new market that we just expand with bloggers.
Awesome, man. So now you're doing about $2 million in revenue a month after cratering to $10K in revenue a month. So that's
pretty good, no?
That's pretty incredible.
Feels much better.
much better. Well, listen, Andrew, we'll stop it there. I'll ask you the 2 questions that we always end on. The first one is, and especially on this kind of V2 play with bloggers and media, when did you know that you had kind of true product market fit?
We always had a feeling, but to know it, I think it's when we talk with the customer. Before talking with someone that you can feel it in their eyes, so like you get what I'm talking about, like you get the point, this is exactly when we felt it. And we felt that twice. First with the event industry when we first started, and after this with the blogger segment that we are currently working with.
Okay, and then the last question is, normally it's actually what's the number one piece of advice you would give yourself? But let me reframe it like this, like because you've gone through these like, oh shit moments where it really looks like the end is right there. What advice would you give to yourself or other founders that are facing similar like existential moments in their business?
Oh man, that's a hard one. It's a fine line between getting crazy and resilient. Like it's a fine line. And it's a matter of like looking at what the market is. Like, is it a big enough market? Do you have a big enough opportunity? Do you have something that others don't have in terms of like data, experiences, skills, like network, whatever you want coming out of this? And if you believe you have an edge somewhere, you should stay for it. Like keep working and pushing and pushing and pushing because you got something that nobody else got. And it's always about timing, as you know, and so on. But you got to fight for it. And if it's not the case, might as well move on to another project. Your time is the most finite resource. You got to like take care of it. You got to empower it as well. So I think it's much more important for you to care and spend your time where you want on something that's going to be driving innovation, that's going to be passioning, that's going to be drive passion for you. That would be my strongest recommendation.
If you listen to this episode and the show and you like it, I have a huge favor to ask for you. Well, it's actually a really small favor, but it has huge impact. But whichever app you're listening to this episode on, take it out, go to Product Market Fit Show and leave a review, please. It's going to help. It's not just going to help me, to be clear. It's going to help other founders discover this show because the algorithms, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, whether it's any other podcast player, one of the big things they look at is frequency of reviews. It's quantity of reviews. And the reality is, if all of you listening right now left reviews, we would have thousands of reviews. So please take literally a minute, even if you're just writing like great podcast or I love this podcast, whatever it is, just write a few words. Obviously, the longer the better, the more detailed the better, but write anything, leave 5 stars, and you will be helping me, but most importantly, many other founders just like you discover the show. Thank you.